Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Meet the Bookstagrammer. My name is Megan, and I am on the social media team here at Random House. Today we are going live with Audra of Ouija Doodle Reads, and we will pull her in when I see her. There she is. Hi!
Hi. I have a creature in my lap.
Yay! Our
Yeah, he
favorite
wanted to
creature.
join. Come here, come here, come here, come here. You can have a treat. Come here.
Yes,
Come here. He's like a little too big for this chair.
that is okay.
Come here.
Look
Up, up, up,
at
up.
him.
Show everyone how cute you are today. Come on. Up, 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 up.
There he
Yes.
is.
Yes, he's so good.
Oh,
He's
look at
so
him.
good.
Hello,
Hi.
sir.
Say hi to the friends. Say
Hello,
hi.
sir.
Hi. There's
This is the
Ouija.
content we're all here for. Yes,
He might not hang out the whole time. He doesn't really know what's
that
going
is
on.
okay. We love to see him. Oh, that was the best thing to come into first thing. I loved that.
Good.
Hi, hi, hi. Do you want to
Hi.
introduce yourself with your name and your handle and your pronouns to all of our
Yes.
viewers?
Sure. I'm Audra. She, hers, perfect. I run this account, Ouija.doodle.reads. It's all about books and my dog.
And the dog, the star of the show.
He's so good.
He's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, look at his little face. I'm so getting so distracted. I just want to look at him all day.
It's hard not to. He's
Yeah, I
quite
know.
cute.
So I always like to hear everyone's Bookstagram origin story. So where did you discover Bookstagram? What inspired you to start your account? What brought you to this little corner of the internet?
It's well, I really was like late on the whole social media train in general. I really like taking photographs, so I was just had a personal Instagram where I was like posting things that like two people looked at. It was like my mom and me.
Yeah.
um, but when I got Ouija, I really just wanted to like take lots of pictures of him and like show everyone how adorable he was. So it really started out as just an account of like his baby pictures, um, which is fun, but did get a little boring after a while because like for me at least, like the content is just the same all the time. So I just started putting books in the pictures because I love reading. And I love books. Like I worked at a bookstore and my major's in creative writing and I work in publishing now. So it's like books are my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know that like Bookstagram was a thing until I started like seeing all these accounts that were interacting with me and just been going since there.
I love it so much. We started with the star of the show and it just kept going from
Yeah,
there.
he's really good. He knows when I pull out the camera or my phone, it's like it's work time.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and he knows he'll sit really and he poses by himself, and he's very smart.
Oh my God, he loves it. That's
He does.
amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about him? Like how long have you had him? How old is he? Where did you get him? What's your story with him?
Sure. He's 5 years old. He's a golden doodle, a double doodle actually. So both of his parents were golden doodles.
Wow.
And they were also both 25 pounds, and he's 50 pounds.
Oh my
So we
God.
were like, got a little more than we bargained for. He knows I'm talking about him, so he's like staring at me. Am I talking about you? Yes. He's from a breeder in Michigan. We really wanted a golden doodle. They're hypoallergenic and have really smart. It's like the best things about golden retrievers and poodles that they super smart and just really friendly. And he's just like everyone loves him, and he loves everyone back.
That's so great. And he knows that this is his account and that he gets to be in all the pictures and he knows exactly how to pose. Did you have to teach him how to do that or did he sort of know it naturally?
He sort of does it by himself. He responds well to treats, obviously, so he's easy to manipulate. But he's just like he's very chill when he knows that we're working when it's work
Hmm.
time. Other than that, it's like people are always asking us like, "Oh, your puppy is so cute," and I'm like, "He's 5. He's not a puppy. He just has a lot of energy.
Yeah.
He's crazy."
Oh, and he's huge. He's 50 pounds. Oh my
Yeah, he's not
gosh.
little.
A big ball of love and fluff. I love it so
Yep.
much.
Super fluffy.
So it is, as people I'm sure can see from the background, all your
Oh,
cool decorations. It is Halloween time. It is
yes,
spooky time, which is,
yes.
I know your favorite time and my favorite time.
Well, yes. Halloween is a more of like a state of mind than a holiday.
Oh my God, I love that. Yes. That's amazing. So, can you tell us a little bit about like why you love Halloween? Why is it your constant state of mind? Where did this obsession come from?
Um, I actually was sort of late coming to loving horror movies and books too. Like I was always really interested in uh like scary things like haunted houses, and like I read books about ghosts like under the cover. My mom had to like take them away from me. But I was like afraid to watch movies and read books that are considered horror. So I didn't really get into that until college actually. Um, and I took a Gothic literature class that included, classic things like Edgar Allan Poe and obviously The Shining. That was the first time I read The Shining, my first Stephen King book that I read in
Wow.
college. It's like, I don't like admitting that because I'm like known for like knowing a lot
Yeah.
about Stephen King, but like it wasn't that long ago that I got into him. And that sort of just like started it all. Like I just wanted to watch all of it and see all of it. And I think a lot of that comes from horror being something like, yes, it's what's scary, but scary things do exist in real life, and you're gonna have to contend with it someday, somehow. Like we all have anxieties, things that we're scared about. And reading scary books and watching scary movies is sort of like an emotional outlet for that.
Mm.
It gives you this like release valve to be like, it's okay to be afraid, and like, look, things are going to get better and things are going to change, and like you can be the survivor. So I think that's why it appeals to me so much, and it's more of like a year-round lifestyle.
Yeah, I love that. I've actually heard a lot of people say that, especially with so much stress and anxiety just in the, country right now, people have been using horror as an escape, and it's like a way for them to sort of be scared in a controlled kind of environment. And I feel like that really resonates with me. It kind of sounds like it resonates with you as well. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And that's definitely a historical, social, political sort of thing where it's like
Hmm.
when we go through times in our history of like huge political upheaval or like world wars and things like that, there are spikes where people are more interested and want to engage with horror, whether they're watching more movies or reading more books. And you see like the themes of what's going on in the time reflected in the fiction,
Hmm.
which I mean, you could probably say for all types of fiction, but I think it's especially apparent. Like it really puts like a really clear perspective on those moments in horror.
Right. Yeah. It's coming back to the fears, the fears and anxieties that are in your daily life kind of bleed onto the page, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, that's amazing. So do you have some examples of some of your favorites, like your all-time favorites? We can start there.
Ooh, all-time favorites are hard. I feel like you feel like you want to include everything, but the ones that I consistently recommend to people as far as like classic books go would be The Shining. I mean, I can't get away from it. Like it's the first book. I actually have a tattoo of The Shining on my
Oh my
arm.
God.
The key.
Oh, I love that.
um,
That's so cool.
yeah, yeah. So I mean that book really started it all for me. So it just has like a very fond place in my heart. And the other big one would be The Haunting of Hill House and Shirley Jackson in general, but especially The Haunting of Hill House. So those are maybe like more boring recommendations because I think everyone has like heard of those books. So I pulled a bunch of books that I think are like maybe a little less well known or like more modern books, and we can talk about those if you
Yeah,
want.
I would love to hear that. You are the expert. Take it away.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The first two that I picked are really recent. They both came out this year.
Hmm.
Mexican Gothic
Yes, I have mine right
and
here.
yes, look, we're twinning.
Yes.
And The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones.
Ooh, yes.
So I'll talk about Sylvia Moreno Garcia's book first. This is the first book that I've ever read of hers, and I think it's the first one that's really like straight horror. She sort of dabbles in speculative fiction, um, in general. I don't want to like speak for her other books because I'm going to read them all because I love this book so much. But this is really like capital H horror, like a gothic horror novel all the way. And she's interested in ideas about imperialism, post-colonialism in Mexico, but also like creepy supernatural stuff going on. And it's sort of like a Frankenstein take on looking at who has the power to create and like how do we create and why should we or should we not. It's brilliant. Yeah, she's so good, and I love that she's able to do like what we were talking about, where she's thinking about and interested in these, you know, social and political themes and issues and incorporating that into her writing and the story, which is like very scary and supernatural.
Yes, definitely. Oh, that's such a good one for reading like this time of year.
Yeah, it's also been fun. Like these two books, I think, are interesting because I consider them both like they're horror books, like straight horror books, and I've been seeing them everywhere. Like people that normally don't read horror are picking up these books. So there you go.
Yeah, I love that. It's definitely a Bookstagram darling this year, which makes me
Yes.
really happy because it's one of my favorite reads this year too.
Oh, it's definitely going to be like in my top 5. Both of these are.
Yes, amazing.
So Stephen Graham Jones is a favorite of mine. He's actually one of my professors at CU Boulder.
Oh,
so
cool.
I knew him, you know, he's written so many books, but almost 30, I think, and like probably an ungodly number of short stories. Just like he writes consistently all the time. He's writing. This book and Mongrels, which is a novel that came out a couple of years ago, are probably his most well-known books. This one I've especially been seeing everywhere, like all the comparisons to Get Out, which is funny. But it's cool to see him like really hitting the mainstream now, because his work is kind of strange and like esoteric and a little difficult to read. But this book is about a group of Blackfeet men who do something that they're not supposed to, and it sort of comes back, it materializes in this like terrifying creature and like haunts them down. So it's something that Jones likes to write about a lot, which is how you can't really escape yourself. Like who you are is who you are, and like whatever that is, like you can't run away from it. You're gonna end up confronting like who you are and what you've done.
I love that. That's so interesting.
Yes, it's really good. And I wanted to pick up one of his backlist books because I think those books are pretty popular. Like most people know about those. So I picked up one of his other books that I really like called Not for Nothing. This one came out a couple years, I mean, maybe more than a couple years ago, like 2014 or so. But it's written in second person, which is kind of interesting, which you don't see very often. So it's like, you do this, you do that. And it's this sort of crime noir mystery set in Texas. He writes a lot about Texas because that's where he grew up. And it's really like as only Stephen Graham Jones could do, like stylistic and interesting and weird to read a whole novel in second person, where it's like you're the one discovering and figuring out what's going on.
Yeah.
So, that is a really good cover.
That I've never heard of that, and I'm very excited to read it. I love when people play with second person. I think that's so interesting, and it definitely adds to the like eerie factor, you know?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that a lot.
So definitely, if you enjoyed The Only Good Indians or read Mongrels or something, you should definitely look into his backlist, because he has about like 30 books, I think, and so many of them are amazing.
That's so amazing. I love when you have so much to choose from. I feel that way about Stephen King. Like, will I ever read everything he's ever written? Probably not. Am I going to continue to try? Probably.
You just have to keep up. I mean, he publishes like 1 or 2 books a year. So
right, yeah, and they're all so creepy, so it works out.
So good, yeah. All right, I have some more.
Yeah, what else you got?
I picked a few like monster sort of books.
Ooh, okay.
I wanted to do like a spread. So this is actually a YA book called Pet by Akwaeke Emezi, and they're amazing. This author has written 3 books, and all of them are sort of speculative, I would say. Very weird, like high literary. But this one is probably the most accessible because it's written for children. Although I think it's very scary. And it's sort of like a metaphorical, allegorical kind of book about this utopian place where monsters don't exist anymore, or people have forgotten that they do, or want to ignore that they do. And there's this large creature comes to the main character, whose name is Jam, and the creature is like, there's a monster, and sort of they go hunting for it while everyone around them is trying to like ignore or, you know, say that there aren't any monsters. And it's just an interesting, you know, social critique sort of about the state of what we have here, and how, you know, people are more willing and want to ignore bad things than try to fix it.
Right.
And
yeah.
so yeah, Amezi, all of their books I would recommend. The newest one is especially heartbreaking.
Yeah. I haven't brought myself to read that one yet because I'm scared it's gonna crush me, but it's sitting like right here.
The audiobook version is really good.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I do have to say I loved Pet so much, and I feel like it did the thing that that I really like to see in like creepy horror books where it's the children that are sort of leading the charge, and like all the adults are, you know, monsters
Yeah.
don't exist. It's all in your head. You have a wild imagination because you're a child, and the children are actually seeing the world for what it is. My roommate and I are watching Stranger Things right now, and that is something that's at the top of my mind. So it reminded me when you brought up Pet. Such a good book.
Yeah. That's definitely a horror trope, is like the sort of coming of age children having to deal with horrors that adults either don't see or don't want to see. So I love those books too. And obviously, you know, Stephen King has written about that a lot. If you like coming of age horror, it is the big one from him. Ronald Mouthy wrote a really good book called December Park, which is a coming of age story about a boy who sees something he shouldn't and sort of like investigates this mystery. So that's like a whole other genre.
Yeah.
I picked a couple other monstery ones. Severance by Ling Ma. Some
Yes.
people, this one I probably would put more in like a horror adjacent category, which I actually love horror adjacent because I think those are the books that when people are like, oh, you like scary books? Like, why do you read those things? Then I'll be like, well, here, try these.
Right.
And so like they're the books that would maybe be like, you know, you could just dip your toe into the waters of horror and then see that actually it is amazing and you're going to love it. This is like a zombie apocalypse coming of age novel for millennials, as evidenced by its millennial pink cover.
Yes, I love that.
And it's about this girl at a dead-end job in New York, and she just does the same thing every day, and then this virus hits, which is like a little close to home right now, and it basically like wipes out everybody, if you get it, you turn into like this zombie creature that's just doing the same thing over and over again. So it's sort of like a satire on like our lackadaisical millennial ways and how like we don't really want to work.
Yeah.
But also, you know, it gets pretty dark, and she's just an excellent writer. I can't wait to see more things from Ling Ma.
Yes, definitely.
This is a newer book. It's called Tender as the Flesh.
Ooh, yes.
This is really gross. This is your warning right now. This book is disgusting in a good way.
Good disclaimer to put up front.
But it's sort of a like dystopian book about how the government decides that meat has gone bad and we can't eat animals anymore. But there is one meat left, and that's human meat.
Oh, God.
So it's about this man who works at a meat processing plant and all of the horrible things that he has to deal with because they're killing humans to eat. So it's sort of this interesting look at how and why like people in power deem other people like less deserving of humanity, and how then everyone else sort of just goes along with that because they don't want to give up like their piece of the power. So it's an interesting critique, and and you know, I love dystopian fiction. I think it generally fits into horror, sci-fi
Mm-hmm.
sort of. So this one is gross, but also you should read
Yes.
it.
Everyone should just go veggie. Yes, agreed.
Oh, good luck. That's an interesting point though, because like they make the meat be like such an industry, like all these people benefit, like the government benefits from
Mm-hmm.
having that as an industry, so they don't want to get rid of it. So you
Right.
know, they're doing a lot of propaganda to like make people think that it's okay.
Ooh, I
Yeah,
love it.
it's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
All right, I have some more satire. This one
Yes.
is My Sister the Serial Killer, which came out in 2018, I think. And
Yeah.
it was pretty big. Like I think a lot of people read this, like people that I were surprised were reading a horror novel. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably more of like a, you know, dark comedy sort of thing
Yeah.
with a title like that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's interested in those larger social issues. So but it I mean, you know, it's about a girl who's killing her boyfriends, and then her sister is like stuck with the cleanup.
Yeah.
Like what's not to love? It's so good. And I love the cover on that one too.
Yeah, the cover and the title. And I think the first line is probably one of my favorite, like, first
Oh yeah.
lines. Like, looking up
What is it?
just how many it is that puts you into the serial killer
Oh yeah.
category, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
she, like, Googles it to see how many counts
Yeah.
as being serial killer.
This one is like a super quick read too, because all the chapters are like really short, and it's just
Hmm.
like they keep building and building, and you're like, it can't be weirder than this. But then it
Right.
gets like over the top.
I could never predict that one. That's a good one to read, like, on Halloween night. I feel like you'll probably read it in
Yeah.
one sitting, and it
It's a
gets you
little
really, like,
funny.
creepy
It's
crawly.
pretty
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah.
Um, Next up, I have Coyote Songs by
Ooh.
Gabino Iglesias. He is incredible. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you probably should because he's just the best.
Okay.
And this is the only book of his I read, but I need more of them because he's just like he's such a writer. It's very immediate, like it hits you all at once, and he just goes and goes. It's sort of like this mosaic of six different stories of Latinx families in the United States, but how they're dealing with, um, you know, looking for a better life. And it's very steeped in like mythology from Mexico and supernatural elements, but also like having to deal with being an immigrant and all the issues that go along with that. He calls it barrio noir, which I kind of think is
Oh my God,
interesting.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So he's just a very ingenious writer that I don't think is getting like a lot of attention from the wider public. So get
Yeah,
Coyote Songs on your list.
amazing. That's a new one for me. Thank you for that. I'll have to get that
Yeah.
one.
Next I got White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi. Um, she's probably not really a horror author, but she's very interested in subverting fairy tales and like
Hmm.
looking at the dark pieces of those and changing the narrative to be sometimes more feminist or more creepy. And but this is definitely a witch novel. It's also sort of a haunted house novel
Yeah.
because the house is actually a character in the book, which is cool. um and her writing is one of those things where you sort of just have to like keep going. just
Yeah.
keep just keep going. It's gonna be okay. It doesn't
Hmm.
always make sense. But she's a brilliant writer. I think this one is definitely my favorite of her books, but I've read them all, and you can't go wrong with any of
Yes.
them.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna keep going until you tell me to shut up. Like
Yeah,
I do
actually,
this all day.
I have one that I want to shout out, which actually goes really well with the one that you just recommended. Speaking of houses being characters, David
Yes.
Mitchell's Slade House,
Oh, I'm a
which is
huge David Mitchell fan.
also, yes, he's amazing. Which is also like a creepy house time slip. Like,
Hmm.
you get invited in every 9 years. They invite a new person into this house, and you're sort of stuck there after that. So it's a really creepy. It's like hard to explain without giving it all away, but it's like a really creepy sort of, like, you never know what's going to happen next, but you also can't put it down. Sort of creepy, like
Yes.
scary, haunted house kind of novel. I'm not explaining it very well, but it's one of my favorites, and it's definitely one of the ones that I feel like you could rip through in like basically a night. Like I couldn't
Hmm.
sleep until I finished it. So that's sort of my like one liner for that one.
Have you also read The Bone Clocks?
Yes,
Yes,
it's up
that's
here somewhere, but yeah, it's one of
yeah.
my favorite ones. I love the Bone Clock so much.
The
It's such
Slade
a good
House
one.
is sort of like a companion novel to The Bone Clocks. You don't have to have read both of them, but they
Right.
stand alone. But it's sort of like sneakily in there. And I
Hmm.
think isn't I'm pretty sure Slade House was a book like he started like writing it on Twitter. He like published it in part on Twitter, and then it just turned into like this bigger thing. He's
How
always
did I not
doing
know that? That's
yeah.
amazing. Oh my
He's
gosh.
pretty he's pretty cool. I've people are like cultish about David Mitchell.
I mean, I thought I was a David Mitchell fan, but I didn't know that about this book, so I got to look into it a little bit
Yeah,
more.
it's pretty cool.
That's
Uh,
awesome. Okay, yeah, let's squeeze in a couple more. We have a few
okay,
more
okay.
minutes, so
I got a few. Okay.
okay.
The Between by Tanana Reeve.
Ooh,
If
yes.
you like horror and you're not reading Tanana Reeve, you're doing it wrong. I don't know what to say. Like, she's like the queen.
Yes.
Um, and this is the first book that I read of hers. All of them are fabulous. This one is about this man who's not really supposed to be alive because he was drowning when he was a child and his grandmother sort of saved him. And it's this sort of like dreamscape, weird exploration of like what if near death is just like another path, like it sends you through a different doorway into another reality, and like what is real, you don't know. Um, so she's really good at layering elements of supernatural horror with real life horror. So
Hmm.
she always offers, interesting critique and integrating like a first person view of the Black experience and Black culture in her books, which I just don't think you find in horror very often. So she's sort of unparalleled in that. And she's currently writing a new book. If you read The Nickel Boys by Coulson Whitehead, she's
Hmm.
writing a new book about that same school where that's set, but it's going to be, horror, supernatural craziness. So
Amazing.
get up on her backlist, and then
Yes,
I think that
prepare
one's coming.
yourself.
Yeah, maybe next year
I love
it'll
it.
come out. All
That's so
right,
exciting.
now I'm gonna do like a little quick backlist trip, and then
Yes.
we'll see what we else have time for.
Okay.
So I wanted to highlight a couple publishers that I really like.
Yeah.
One of them is Valancourt Books. They publish old, out of print books that you can't find anywhere else, and they put like these brilliant, beautiful new covers on them. And they're just amazing. They also have like a really huge selection of queer literature that like no one's ever seen before. But
Amazing.
yeah, they're really cool. Those are like their two focuses. So I pulled out The Elementals by Michael McDowell. It's like a gothic horror sort of haunted house story, but it's set at a beach, like in summertime.
Oh, wow.
So it managed to be like very creepy and chilling, even though it's like 100 degrees outside.
Amazing.
He's actually best known, here's your trivia for the day, for writing the screenplay for Beetlejuice and The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Stop. Oh
I
my
would say that
gosh.
his books are very different from those not from those movies, but you should still read them.
That is amazing. I love
Yeah.
those movies.
Oh yeah, he's really great. He does have some like more comedic books too, but he's best known for like his chilling, ghostly gothic fiction.
Amazing.
I also pulled out Hellhound by Ken Hall. Greenhall. I was gonna say Greenwood for a second. I'm going
Yeah.
crazy. He's a super underrated horror novelist that only has 3 books, I think. Um, the first one was actually published under a female pseudonym because it's sort of like this coming of age story about witches, and they were like, no one's gonna believe it if it's written by a dude, I guess.
Whoa.
But it's
Okay.
really good. This is
Interesting.
yeah. This one is obviously about a dog that's not very good. Not a good not a good dog. um, but he's in very like slim pages. He's really interested in like human evil and like what makes people scary. Um, it's yeah. He's really really interesting. And then I had one more Valancourt book, The Auctioneer
Oh, I
by
love
Joan
that
Sanson.
cover.
This is a really cool series. I don't know if you can see at the top. It says Paperbacks from Hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, Valancourt is they're still publishing them sort of infrequently, but they did a whole series of like vintage paperback mass market horror, bringing back like the original covers. And they're all featured in Grady Hendrix's book, Paperbacks from Hell, which is just like this beautiful graphic representation of like every creepy, weird horror book from the like 70s to 80s that like no one ever read, but they all have these like amazing art covers and you can't find them anymore. So they started putting out a bunch of them, and you can buy the whole series from them. This is one of my favorites. It's sort of like the gothic tones and like hive mind of The Lottery mixed with like the charismatic evil person from Needful Things.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's such a great line. That should be on the cover. I love that.
It's really brilliant. And it's the only book that Joan Sampson ever wrote.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend the Paperbacks from Hell. I love that book. It's so like cool and creepy.
They did similarly, like a similar sort of thing. I have it sitting here. Quirk did this book called Monster, She Wrote.
Yes. I love that book.
Yes, and it's like this beautifully designed book all about women writing speculative fiction. And Valancourt is now putting out these editions of some of the books that are featured in Monster, She Wrote. So Elizabeth Engstrom has like a bunch of books on the Valancourt line, but they just have like these really beautiful covers, and they go with Monster, She Wrote. So if you like those sort of like vintagey things, those are amazing too.
Definitely.
All right, I have a couple more I'm going to throw at you, Red. Unnerving did this series this year called Rewind or Die.
Oh.
I just have 3 of them right here. They're all kind of funny.
Yeah.
But they sort of inspired by like 80s video nasty, like grungy horror movies. They had authors write these little novellas. So they're just like little bite-sized, like tiny books. But like really interesting, like you would see this in a really stupid horror movie sort of situation. And I read almost all of them, and they're just like so much fun for like a bite-sized like horror fun bit.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I love all these throwbacks to like vintage horror.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's like my jam. I also I try to read like, I think mostly especially in the past couple of years, I noticed that my trend of reading was like, you know who writes a lot of horror books? White guys. Like that's what it was. And I was like, there has to be more people than white guys writing horror books. Like, why am I not seeing those? Where can I find them? So I've been, making that more of a priority to be like, I want to read books by women and women of color in general, and like especially in horror. And there's so much there. I'm actually a part of the team Ladies of Horror Fiction, which you can find on Instagram, Twitter, our website, wherever, where that's all we do is highlight women in writing horror, and with interviews, and we're hosting like movie nights on Fridays this month and next month. So if you're interested, check that out. We're watching horror movies directed by women or featuring really cool women, or written by women. So it's like a fun way to expand your horror, because when you go to the bookstore and you look in the horror section, if they have one, it's probably Stephen King and like a few books by Joe Hill.
Right.
And, I love Stephen King, but there's so much to explore. So that's my soapbox moment for
I love that.
reading diverse horror.
No, I feel like that's such an important message. I feel like that's actually the perfect place to end. That feels like a great like mic drop. Read diverse horror books. Like, come on. It's not just old white guys. You can do better. No. But this has been an amazing list of recs, and we will make sure to post that somewhere so everyone can find all the titles. And this will be saved to Random House IGTV in case you missed it and you want to watch it back. See our little dog cameo at the beginning.
He ran away. He heard the doorbell ring.
He's like, you're boring, Mom. You're not playing with me. But thank you so much for coming on and talking with me today, Audra, and happy Halloween and happy spooky season.
Happy Halloween. Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope you guys find some interesting horror books. Hit me up if it wasn't enough for you, or if you need a very specific recommendation.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I'm there for it.
Audra and Ladies of Horror Fiction will be tagged in the comment on this IGTV, so you can easily follow them. And thanks everyone for joining us today.